on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here to talk about another hot topic. I know some of y'all been writing me saying, what do I think about the Todd and Candy divorce? Listen, I don't want to talk about no married couples too much because I don't know. I guess being a married person myself, one thing I do know, if a divorce is happening, it's never one person's fault. It just never is one person's fault. So I'm sure there is enough blame to go around of what people could have done differently. And from all the stories, we know there's a lot that Candy could have done differently, a lot that Todd could have done differently. So I'm not going to blame who for the demise of the relationship because I'm not in their relationship. I don't know everything about their relationship, but I will tell you this. And now that we are at this point where there is a divorce, and I know they had this prenup, I'm going to tell you right now, Candy will settle. She going to have to settle. I know a lot of people who are out here rooting for her for the prenup to get held up. To get affirmed and held up by the judge. And I'm not even saying that the prenup is not going to get held up, but she gonna settle. Candy gonna pay some money. First of all, the prenup. Let me say this: I already knew Candy's case of trying to have Todd walk away from this marriage of I don't know what 10 years with nothing was ridiculous and absurd. Okay. And I don't even have all the information, all the facts. But the fact that Todd has been able to hire this other lawyer, Randy Kessler, confirmed it that Todd has a good case. Because from what I hear, this Randy Kessler fella is a pretty well-known divorce attorney. He is very costly. He is a divorce attorney to the stars. We've seen him do things with Portia, I think Nene Leakes, different people. We've seen him on these housewife shows. The fact that he took Todd's case, when we know Todd does not have a whole lot of money, right? Todd ain't broke, but the type of lawyer that Randy is, he's charging a hefty penny per hour. So remember, an attorney got to get paid, okay? So they're going to evaluate, if an attorney takes your case, they're going to evaluate whether or not only can you win, but can they get paid? And if this attorney is charging whatever, $500 an hour, I don't know, some of these attorneys, expensive attorneys, they're charging $400, $500, $600 an hour, okay? And there's going to be a lot of hours put into this case. So if Randy Kessler took the case and he knows Todd by himself couldn't really pay his bill, what he's saying is that's okay that Todd can't pay because Todd is going to get money from Candy and that's what's going to pay my bill because I believe Todd has a good case. By the fact that Randy Kessler took his case, told me right then and there that Todd's got a good case. And then I also know that Candy was caught flat-footed. And the reason why I believe Candy was caught flat-footed in terms of not believing that this divorce would turn out like this is because she had to amend her original complaint. Her original petition was not prepared for what Todd brought afterwards, which tells me she was kind of clueless. She was thinking that I've got an ironclad prenup. This is going to be simple. This is going to be easy. And when her attorney drafted the original petition, they were like, it was kind of generic. Hold up the prenup, 50-50 here, do all this. Well, after they found out that Todd had Randy Kessler, and then they were like, hold up a second, we're not doing this. They had to come back and amend, which meant that Candy had no idea that Todd was going to go down this route, which brings me back to, although Candy was the one who actually filed the original petition. Personally, I believe that Todd left Kandi. I know y'all are saying Kandi got fed up with Todd. Todd was cheating. Kandi had enough of it. I believe that Todd left Kandi. And as always, a lot of times men do leave the option of the woman filing, being the original filer in order that she doesn't look as bad. A lot of times if you're left by a man, you still want to pretend like you was the one that filed, but you could tell by the behaviors of both Todd and Kandi after the filing came out that Kandi was really shaken up by it. I don't think that Kandi wanted her marriage to end this way, but after a series of Todd not wanting to be in the marriage probably for a while, later on we hear Todd was out here gallivanting with other women. I think Todd pretty much left the marriage. I hear that their separation date was in July. So he left the marriage pretty long ago. So maybe he is talking to other women, right? And I think that Kandi finally realized after him leaving in July and not coming back and not looking back, I think Kandi realized that this is for real. We're going to have to get a divorce. Because if the so-called separation date was in July, maybe what Kandi was thinking, we'd separate in July, but we might get back together. But after they separate in July, it sounds like Todd wasn't showing any type of remorse, regret, anything. He was on to, who knows? They said talking to other women. No one has said that he's actually been physical with other women, but they could. Which gets me to another thing. As a married woman to a married woman for Kandi, I like to say that I'm going to ride with the married woman on certain things because I wouldn't want that to happen to me. Do I want divorce to happen to any married woman? I don't. But Candi's going to have to realize, like in the court of public opinion, that the lifestyle that she and Todd lived is outside the norm that most married couples live, right? Most married couples are not swinging. They're not doing threesomes. They're not inviting other women into their bedrooms. So when all of a sudden someone tells me, well, Todd is cheating, I say, well, wait a minute. Aren't you in an open marriage? Aren't you having threesomes already? Then if you come to me and you say, well, that's outside the rules of our threesome and also of our, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not going to parse this. We're not going to do that because you're already so far outside the coloring of what normally happens and what's allowed or tolerated in a marriage that now you want me to also have some special rules to the swinger lifestyle. No, because what I don't know is even when you were with these other third parties, Kandi, Todd could say, well, you did this to a person even when we're together. That's outside of our rules. You're not supposed to kiss. We learned a lot from the Diddy trial. And in the Diddy trial, Cassie tried to tell us that there were rules to what she and Diddy were doing. And that because we colored outside those rules, that was outside of what we said. No. That was why a lot of people couldn't get behind Cassie, because what we were saying was, once you go outside of what everyone else feels is normal, whether you call it normal or not, I don't care what y'all doing down in Atlanta, Georgia, okay? I don't care if this is normal. I don't care if this is widespread or rampant. We now outside of Atlanta, outside of Georgia, we're into normal married households. And this stuff that Todd and Kandi were doing is outside the norm. So I can't call Todd no more of a cheater than I can call Kandi. Because we've seen these videos of Todd saying Kandi likes to run up the numbers. We've seen it. We've seen where, and what he said was, she likes to run up the numbers on both ends, which means she likes to not only dibble and dabble with women and also dibble and dabble with different men. And once you start getting into that area, I'm not going to call any other person more of a cheater than I don't care about these rules around, you know, threesomes. So I don't think that's even going to hold up in court around. I know right now there seems to be a play where Kandi is going to try to expose Todd as a cheater. That's fine. But that's a dangerous game because this is what I believe. I believe after 15 years of marriage, Kandi and Todd have a lot of secrets, a lot of things that they've done in their marriage that if it were out in public, there will be shame for both people. And honestly, because Kandi is the biggest star, plus she's a woman, there is a double standard. Any release of information surrounding promiscuous sexual activity, Kandi will look worse than Todd. You may not like it, but it's true. Kandi has more to lose for this information to get out about what they was really doing in their marriage than Todd has. It's a double standard. We could call it sexism. You could call it whatever you want. You could, because Kandi's famous. But if information gets out about really what was going on sexually in that marriage with threesomes and different people, I'm not saying Todd's going to look good. He's going to look bad. But Kandi's going to look worse. And that's why I believe that Kandi has already tried to seal the information on this case. And that's also why I believe that Kandi will settle. Because Kandi is not going to want all her dirt and information in the streets. She's not going to want it. If you think back long ago when Portia said all that stuff about them having a sex dungeon, right? And Kandi got really upset. Portia went so far as to say, you almost tried to drug me, this and that and this and that. And Kandi was going to sue Portia for lying or making up stuff or ruining her reputation. Whether all that part of what Portia was saying was a lie, the part about the activities that go on, minus all the drugging people, I believe was the truth. There's always some truth to lies, people's lies. And there was a truth behind what Kandi and Todd does. So you can't have all this type of activity and then come back to me as another married woman and say Todd cheated on me. Nope, I don't want to hear it. I do not want to hear it. Maybe some people, other people out there want to hear that. I'm not going to hear it. This other part where I think they're going to have a problem. When Todd and Kandi first got married, one thing that I can say about their relationship, one of the foundations of their relationship always, to me, felt businesslike, right? I'm not saying they didn't love each other. I think that they did. But I think a strong part of what bonded them together was they both like to make money and they like to be entrepreneurs and start businesses. So one of the things that I believe would also incentivize Kandi to marry Todd. People want to say, this is what Kandi gets for marrying below her. She should have married a guy on her own level. But what you guys forget to remember is Kandi didn't have a whole lot of offers, okay? People act like Kandi had 15 men lined up and 14 of them were millionaires or men who made a lot of money. And the 15th person was Todd, who at that time was only making $150,000. And what Kandi did was she skipped over all the millionaires and she chose Todd. That's not what happened. Y'all remember Kandi being on Real Housewives of Atlanta. In fact, when she was on there, she was really, I think she had a boyfriend. She did have a boyfriend. She had a boyfriend that she had been in a relationship with for a couple of years, and they weren't even getting married. He didn't want to marry her. And I believe he was killed. If I'm not mistaken, somebody let me know down in the chat. I believe that person that she used to date, years later, I thought I remember hearing that he was killed. He was killed in the street. Okay. I could be wrong, but I think I'm not. So this idea that Kandi settled for Todd is kind of like what I hear a lot of people talk about, but yet no one could tell me what other offers did Kandi have. So Kandi was on a Housewives show. Back then, when Kandi became on the Housewives, they really did want to require you to be married, right? Now you ain't got to be married. But back then, that was a thing. So in a lot of ways, I believe Kandi's involvement with Todd was also to benefit her. I don't think it was just about Todd getting money from Kandi. I believe that it was a mutually beneficial relationship in which they both felt like they could make some money off of it. This is not to diminish their love, because I don't want to do that, because I still believe they loved each other. They went on to have two beautiful children. But I believe that the initial conversations, or part of what brought them together, was the fact they like to get that bag. Because we know Kandi likes to make money. She loved to make money. So that's the first thing when I think about the fact that why they got married even in the first place. Now you go on and you say, once they decided to get married, and you had a big objection from Mama Joyce. I know a lot of people are running around talking about Mama Joyce was right. You got to listen to your mama. Mama Joyce is not right. Okay. Mama Joyce has basically told everybody in Kandi's life that they're only friends with Kandi for her money. Mama Joyce has not liked anyone who's gotten close to Kandi. Mama Joyce didn't like Carmen. Mama Joyce didn't like Don Juan in the beginning. Mama Joyce didn't like Todd. In a lot of ways, I never was a fan of Mama Joyce, because what I felt about Mama Joyce was she was really holding her own daughter back from being able to trust other people, to find people in her life. Because what Mama Joyce constantly talked about was all these people, Carmen, Don Juan, Todd, they only like you, Kandi. They only love you, Kandi. They only want to be with you, Kandi, because of your money. And to be honest with you, I think that was a lot about Mama Joyce. I think Mama Joyce didn't want other people coming in Kandi's life that might make her look at what she was doing with her mama and say, why are you doing that with your mama? That's what I believe. I think a lot of times Mama Joyce was trying to keep people out of Kandi's life to protect her spot in Kandi's life, because Mama Joyce has run away so many people out of Kandi's life. So this idea that she was right about Todd, I don't really say that, because Mama Joyce has that feeling about everyone. So it's almost like even a broken clock can be correct twice a day. That's how I feel like Mama Joyce is. So do I believe that Todd had a whole scheme that from the very beginning of this marriage, what he set out to do was, I'm going to marry Kandi, I'm going to wait 10 years, I'm going to divorce her and take her money? I don't think so. But do I believe that their marriage was formed around somewhat of a business relationship? I do. But I think they both wanted it. This is where Kandi went wrong. First of all, that prenup, that coercion, signing a prenup before 4 hours, it is coercion. I hate to tell you. The second part is that little raggedy scene where right before the wedding, that lawyer that Kandi had shows up and has Todd sign a prenup 4 hours before the wedding. That's tacky. That's tacky. The wedding should have been called off. If Todd didn't sign that prenup sooner than that, the wedding should have been called off. In terms of, was he coerced? I believe he was. I believe that they're going to say that he was coerced, because you do need to have an attorney present when you sign a prenup. Otherwise, it can be challenged. The other reason why I think that there is some leeway in that prenup is because, to me, it was really, really unfair. And I believe that's another tenet of a prenup, that it has to be equitable. I remember Todd and Candy arguing, and Todd saying, Candy, if we get divorced, you need me out the house in 30 days. I can't even move to the guest house to give me time to be able to find an apartment. And what Candy is saying is, no, why do you need more than 30 days? Well, guess what, Candy? This is what you got. Because Todd knew he had 30 days to get out, what he didn't do was tell you when he was going to leave you, right? Because by telling you, all of a sudden, he was only going to get 30 days. So he kind of maneuvered around the prenup because he knew that come divorce time or whatever, he was only going to have 30 days. So he moved sooner than later. And I do believe he was doing some planning behind Candy's back, because I believe that Todd knew he was going to leave Candy probably over a year ago, if not longer. That's what I believe. And the other part where I think Candy did wrong, besides drafting a prenup that says you get nothing, you don't get any alimony, you don't get any, at that time they didn't have children, so child support wasn't even an issue. You get nothing. You leave with the clothes on your back after 10 years. Now, here's where I have another problem with when women make a lot of money, okay? When you make a lot of money like Candy does, and your net worth is so far outside of your spouse's, Todd's case, in a lot of ways, you've taken on the traditional male role, right? Whereby it's the man's net worth who is whatever, 20 million, whatever Candy's worth, and the woman has come in with not a lot of net worth. That's typically what you're seeing in these rich man and a woman who's has a job, but she gonna quit her job. So what you want me to say is, if I'm a married woman and I'm looking at a couple getting divorced, I might identify more with Todd, because typically that is the position women are in. So now I want to say, wait a minute. You mean to tell me if the roles were reversed and it was a man who had the type of money that Candy has, you have Todd who has worked in Candy's businesses for 10 years. He helped her build these businesses. Even Candy herself has told us that before Todd, she said, yeah, I was doing well, but Todd helped me take it to another level. Todd was very instrumental in actually getting Old Lady Gang up and going. Now, think about it. They got Old Lady Gang up and running. Todd, I believe, was the mastermind behind that. He capitalized on people liking Mama Joyce, Aunt Bertha, Candy, right? So here's Todd saying, we're going to blow up Aunt Bertha and Mama Joyce so we can make some money. This is why I'm telling you, Todd and both Candy both care about money, because Todd was willing to work with Mama Joyce, who he don't even like, just to make some money. And he invested in that restaurant. Mama Joyce probably made some money because they're using her likeness, her name. Aunt Bertha's making money. Candy's making money. So now you want to say, Candy, after 10, 15 years, imagine you are a woman. Imagine you used to have a job where you made $100,000. You marry a rich man. Your rich man says, go ahead and quit your job. I want you to take all that information you have, all that know-how you have to produce things, all of your trade. I want you to take all that knowledge, and I want you to start investing in me, my businesses, my family, my mother, my aunt, to blow us up. And then afterwards, if we get a divorce, you don't get shit. No. That's why I can't really be on Candy's side for that, because I'm looking out for a woman in that position. I'm saying, you mean to tell me I gave up my job? I worked in your business for 10 years. I hope you build a lot of these brands that you have, but yet you want to say I'll walk away with nothing? I don't have any equity in the growth of you? Absolutely not. That's what we fight about all the time when we talk about women being beside men and helping men make money and get better. And we're saying there's no way you can disregard a woman's role in a man's life after 10 years that they get nothing. But all of a sudden now you want people to disregard Todd's role in Candy's life? No, can't do it. And the fact that Kandi asked for that in a prenup, I call that very greedy. I call that very greedy. It's almost offensive that you would think that someone should invest in you for 10 years. Okay? Sure, he's getting benefit too. Of course, just like a wife would be getting benefit from helping her husband get better. Of course, she's living the life too. I get it. But at the end of this 10-year marriage, and that's a long time for a marriage, right? That's a long time. Most marriages only last 5 years. You mean you walk away with nothing? No, 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 no. And I'm going to tell you another thing. The other part about this sort of double standard is that Kandi is the boss chick. She's the runner. She's running the show, right? So Kandi buys this house and she pays cash for it, from what I hear, $500,000 cash. Well, I've heard Kandi plenty of times on TV saying Todd pays all the household bills. So I'm like, well, wait a minute, Kandi. If you purchased a house prior to being married and the house is in your name, what type of household bills is Todd paying? Now, if Todd is only paying the electric bill, the gas bill, then I'm cool with that, Kandi. But if anywhere along the way, Todd was paying insurance or taxes or maintenance or repairs for that house, then guess what, Kandi? He should share in the equity of that house. I don't care if you bought it before him. That's where Kandi messes up. You see, Kandi wants, just like Todd said, she want to play both sides. She want to be the man and the woman, right? But most men, if you're worth $30 million, $20 million, you're not going to make the woman pay household bills. Imagine this. You married to a man who's worth $20 million, $30 million, and he comes to you after he told you you can quit your $100,000 job, but I want you to pay household bills. And then when we get divorced, you've been paying household bills for 10 years. You don't get no part of this house. You got to be crazy. You got to be crazy. So what Kandi wanted Todd to do was pay the household bills so she could say that she ain't paying all Todd's bills. Well, that's fine, Kandi. You wanted to pretend like Todd was paying household bills. You wanted to give him some responsibility. Well, what you did was you jeopardized the equity in that house. You should never have had Todd pay no household bills, so it would have been clean. So you can say, nope, he didn't pay for no upgrades. He didn't pay for no maintenance. He didn't pay for nothing around here. So there's no reason why he should share in any equity of this house. But because you made him pay bills, because you made him work in your business and grow your business, there is no way after 10 years you can have him work in your business, fix up your house, and he gets nothing. That's when you're trying to double dip, Kandi. That's when you're trying to be the man and the woman. You're trying to get the benefits of the woman, but you're also trying to get the benefits of the man, and that's where she's going to run into a problem. I remember when Todd, I don't even know if he still has it, he had a condo in New Jersey. I remember an episode where Kandi wanted Todd to sell his New Jersey condo. And Todd was saying, I don't want to sell it. It's the only thing that I own. If anything ever happened to us, I want to be able to have something to leave to my daughter, because you're going to have plenty to leave. At this time, they didn't even have children. You're going to have plenty to leave to your daughter. I want to have something to leave to my daughter. Kandi told Todd, you need to sell that condo. I don't think he sold it. Good for him. Because what did Kandi want him to do? Sell the New Jersey condo, take the money, invest it in her house that she bought, and remodel that house. And then when they get divorced, tell him he don't get no part of the equity in that house. Kandi gonna settle. She gonna settle. And we already know that they got a lot of debt because the restaurant business is a hard business. And typically people who own restaurants, they accumulate a lot of debt, especially when it gets ready to close. I know Kandi done had lawsuits. People done sued her over people getting hurt at that restaurant. I remember someone sued her over feeling as if that she didn't pay him correctly. We know the business closed pretty fast. We've seen the articles about landlords suing them for money that they still owe back rent for some of these, the steakhouse or whatever. And even Kandi mentioned in her divorce that they had debts. So let me get this straight. Y'all got debts in the marital house, but you believe Todd shouldn't walk away with any money. Well, how he gonna pay the debts? So you mean to tell me that I invest in your business, because it's your business, I work for 10 years, I invest in your house, but then when everything collapses, the marriage collapses, the business collapses, I don't get no money from anything that grew in value, but what I have to take are all the debts from the businesses that failed. Hell to the no. Hell to the no. So I don't really believe that the prenup even has to fall apart. I believe that the prenup can be enforced in some way, but the prenup doesn't cover children. So Todd gonna get child support, and he's gonna get child support in the form that those children should be able to live the same life at Kandi's house as they live at his house. So if they're living a $10,000 a month life with Kandi, as Kandi says she's paying the nanny, then they're gonna have to live a $10,000 a month life with Todd, which means Kandi gonna be paying child support. Kandi may think child support is gonna be 50-50. It's not, because her net worth is more. I don't know how Georgia does it, but here in California, Kandi gonna have to pay more child support. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know where Kandi was really not thinking right, that when she got married to Todd, she was thinking, I could in a lot of ways use Todd to help me on the show of Real Housewives of Atlanta by getting married and now having married status. I could use Todd to help me start restaurants, candy coated nights, everything else. I could use Todd to pay household bills. But at the end of this all falling apart, Todd would have to walk away with nothing, and Todd would have to pay child support to me. Girl. This is a mess. Kandi not gonna want this stuff to come out, you see. And the timing of this divorce, honestly, I don't find it too odd, because one thing I've seen with Real Housewives people across all the franchises is when they stop being a housewife and they lose those big salaries. And I think Kandi was making, I don't know, was she making like $1 million a year? I don't know. That's a lot of money to lose out of the household. What I suspect is that the money Kandi was making on Real Housewives of Atlanta was bankrolling a lot of these other businesses. I don't think all these other businesses were as profitable as people think. I think they might have made some money, but I think there was also a money pit. But when that Real Housewives money was rolling in, it could be used to subsidize those other businesses. So once Kandi got fired, and I'm going to say it again, fired. Kandi did not quit Real Housewives. She, just like Kandi ain't divorced Todd. Kandi has been allowed to make it appear as if she left Real Housewives. She was fired, okay? Kandi has made it appear as if she left Todd. Todd left her, right? And when that check from the Real Housewives of Atlanta dried up, that's even less money for Todd to spend on these other businesses. Now, do I believe Todd was also fed up with Kandi from being gone, for not having to say so in the house? Absolutely. Because I also read that Instagram post he did to his mama where he told his mama, who is dead and deceased, I'm going to make you proud, mama. Because what he said is, vengeance is mine. Not vengeance is the Lord. Vengeance is mine. I'm going to tell you, that text, that Instagram post that Todd wrote to his mama basically said, I'm here for some get back. All that stuff that Mama Joyce did to you, all that stuff where Kandi never stood up for me, mama, and you, mama, and they let Mama Joyce run her mouth like she did. We about to show them. We gonna stick it to them. They worried about this money. We gonna stick it to them where they're hurt. And what Todd is on right now, and I'm gonna tell you right now, he's on some get back and he's on some revenge for the 10 years in which he was belittled by Mama Joyce, and Mama Joyce belittled his mama and called him all kind of names. He said, that's fine. You ain't never thought of me differently for 10 years, then I'm going to become the very person you think I am. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. I know Kandi was thinking that this was going to be very amicable, right? That's what she wants. She don't want to fight. But she going to have a fight on her hands because we know Kandi's tight with some money. We know she tight. I don't know anything about the attorney she has, but I'm going to say this. I did hear her attorney also representing a housewife on some other situation. Now, I think I could be wrong. This Randy Kessler guy is a divorce specialist. Like, that's his main practice of law, right? Sometimes you can go get these attorneys and they represent clients in all different types of cases. They not only do divorce, they do, slip and falls. They do personal injury. They do a whole litany of types of things. But me personally, when you really need to go hard in the paint on a subject, you need to get you a specialist. You don't need to get a person who does a couple of divorces. You want to get a person where divorce is their bread and butter, because when it's their bread and butter, they're more specialized and more educated in that area. And I think Kandi and her lawyer got a bit flat-footed. I think their original filing was, I don't know. I don't even know why they put that out originally. Maybe Kandi said, oh, we don't need to do nothing special. This is going to be an easy divorce. Just make it generic, because Kandi didn't want to pay no big prices for no attorney. And I bet she was probably trying to be a little bit cheap herself. And Todd said, no, I'm spending all this money. Just like Todd would spend all that money in their businesses. Everybody said Todd was spending all Kandi's money with these bad business ideas. That's fine. Well, Todd is still spending money because he done spent a lot of money on this attorney. But that's what I think. I know some of you have written me and asked me, what do I think about what's going on with Todd and Candy? I think she's going to settle. She's going to settle because one is she's not going to want all of this to come out. Kandi got a lot of skeletons in her closet, especially when it comes to sexual promiscuity, orgies, whatever you want to call it. And Todd was right there along with her. But in the end, in the public, the person that's going to look the worst, unfortunately, is going to be Kandi. And Kandi not going to want to play tit for tat with Todd. She's not going to want to do that. She's going to have to settle, and she's going to be paying him child support for those children. And he's also going to get some type of lump sum money, because Randy Kessler would not have taken the case if he did not believe that Todd was going to be owed some money, because that prenup, in a lot of ways, Kandi kind of violated her own prenup prior to. She done told a person, you're going to work in my business, you're going to fix up my house, You're going to do all this kind of, you're going to quit your job. You're going to sell your condo, all this other kind of stuff. But then when you leave, you don't get nothing. Girl, you're going to look horrible, Kandi. You're going to look horrible. If the roles reversed and this was a man trying to do this to a woman, as women, we would be outraged. We would be outraged. Completely outraged. So that's what I think, y'all. That's what I think. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Bye.